See. Hey guys. Hi. Hi. Hello. Let's wait for a few minutes, then we can start the class. Hey, hey, hey. गिटहब आज किरट भैया नहीं है, सो किरट आप लोग गिटहब शेयर करके।
Who said
भैया आ
that?
गए। हाय भैया।
I'm kidding. It'll only be you. I'm just here for 5 minutes.
श्योर।
Cool
थोड़ा
man.
रुक जाते, मुझे भी कॉन्फिडेंस आ जाता।
ठीक है, रुक जाऊंगा। I'll be here. हम यहीं
ठीक
अब
है,
चला
ठीक है।
रखा है, तुम्हारा सेशन चल रहा है यहाँ भी, तो मैं सुन रहा हूँ।
ओके, ठीक है। मैं कैमरा तो बंद कर दूंगा क्योंकि नेटवर्क कनेक्टिविटी इशू है।
Okay.
सो आई जस्ट बी शेयरिंग माय स्क्रीन।
Cool man. Works.
कैसे हो भैया आप?
First class. How are you?
डूइंग गुड।
How's job?
फटी पड़ी है। जॉब्स डूइंग गुड। जॉब्स अच्छी चल रही है।
Got it. Are you recording locally?
नो, डू यू वांट मी टू रिकॉर्ड इट? ओबीएस इंस्टॉल
Uh,
तो नहीं है।
yeah, I don't see. Oh, this meeting is being It's not being recorded. Yeah, so one of us will have to record this. Can you install OBS?
Sure, I'll just do that.
I'll answer chat until then. People are funny.
आज सभी लोग गिटहब स्पैम करेंगे, फिर भी मैं कुछ नहीं देख।
Nice.
सिलिकॉन। भैया रेजोल्यूशन कुछ स्पेसिफिक है क्या, या रैंडमली रिकॉर्ड लगा दूं?
1080 should be fine. As long as you see
ठीक है।
1080 and make sure your mic is connected, audio is being recorded. I should tell
डन डन।
Aryan why this meeting is not being recorded for some reason.
रिकॉर्डिंग ऊपर आ रहा है भैया?
Aryan is
मुझे तो
here.
लग रहा है।
Aryan is in the panelist.
Okay, it is being recorded, Aryan. आपको आ
हाँ,
रहा है तो
रिकॉर्ड हो रहा है।
हाँ, मुझे ऊपर आ रहा है, रिकॉर्डिंग आ रहा है।
all right, good to go then, guys. Cool.
ओके,
All the best, Keshav.
ठीक है भैया। Hey guys, let me just introduce myself for a bit. So today's class there won't be a lot of coding. It's gonna be a lot of design part. We'll be learning about UI, UX, and how to design a web page. By the end of this class, it's gonna be a two-part class. So today is gonna be the part one. Tomorrow we will have a part two. So today we'll be designing a web page by the end of this class, and tomorrow we'll be coding the exact same web page. So after a while during today's class, after like 1 hour, I'll be asking you guys from the chat to pick a topic or suggest a topic, and we'll be designing a website based on that topic. It's gonna be a challenge, but fuck it. So then, yeah. So let me set a basic context about today's class. Let me share my screen. I'll stop my video and can go from there. Hopefully this is the correct screen. And yeah, these are the topics that we'll be going through today. These are like basic topics, and the notes are, it's totally theoretical. I'll be sharing the notes in the chat. Oops. So like on a higher level, I'll be discussing about my learnings about UI UX. I've done professional certificate from Google, and I've worked as a full-time designer at a design agency from Switzerland. And I've been working as a freelance designer for like more than a year. It was like a small gig. So you could say I have a handful of knowledge about UI design and web design or graphic design. And in tomorrow's class, we'll be learning about web interactions and animations and micro interactions and how to make your UI breathe a bit. For today, we'll be learning about typography, colors, and a bit of UI, UX, and how to set up Figma, how to go around Figma, and all the other the parts. So let's just start with setting up a Figma account. If you go to Figma, you can create a free account. Just click on login. Everyone, yes, you could go on Figma and set up an account. We'll start from there. Just log in with Google. I'll be creating a new account just for you guys. Linux users can use the web-based one, and chalo. And if you have a student ID, you could use the pro version, but you can do that later. I think the starter version is just fine. So after you have done setting up your Figma account, you can just go here, create a new file, and create a new design file. This is what we'll be working with today. Also, guys, you can feel free to interrupt me during the class. If you feel like the pace is a bit faster, you could just raise your hand and just let me know, and I'll try to slow it down a bit. I usually tend to speak a bit faster in pace, so you let me know. So this is the UI you'll be working with on Figma. Here are your layers. These are multiple pages. I think you can just create multiple pages. These are a few layers. Here you will be having the design variables, the colors, and etc. This is like the toolbar. Here you'll be having, this is the cursor. This is your cursor, hand tool, scale, frame. The frame tool, this is where you can start designing. So frame is like your canvas. If you have used Excalibur before, frame tool is like, it creates a canvas for you. So let's say we create a desktop canvas. So this is your canvas for today. So here you can add in text, and this text is going to have variables here. You have your font weight, text size, font size, etc. font family. So speaking of typography, let's learn a bit more about typography before we start into design. So typography, I would say, is like the most basic part of your design process. Sorry. Typography isn't just about, picking pretty fonts. Typography isn't just about, picking pretty fonts. So it is divided into multiple parts. There are types of fonts. There are types of styles of a font. You have something called as a typeface, which is the font family. If I go to Google Fonts, and let's search for Poppins. It's like the pretty famous font for UI designers or web developers mostly. So all these fonts you see here, these are the part of a typeface. Poppins is a typeface, and these fonts are part of the Poppins family. Poppins is a typeface. These are all the part of a family of Poppins. And when you say font, what we are referring here is sorry guys. What you're referring here is Poppins, bold, and 16 pixels. This is what comes under the font. So if I go to Figma back again, what we have here is we are using Interfont here. We can switch to Poppins. That's for the class. Poppins, regular, and 16 pixels is our font for today. And we have various sizes, but 16 pixels is like the, suggested or recommended font, which is supported on most of the devices, mobile, desktop, and a lot of devices. Now, let's move to types of fonts. There are like three mostly used fonts, which are sans serif, serif, and monospaced. Sans serif is like a pretty clean, modern, sleek font, which is used everywhere nowadays. Then it's like a display font. Next, we have serif font. Serif fonts have these feet at the bottom. If you notice, there's like a small feet here. These feet, basically, this font is used in printed medium, like a newspaper or say books. And also fonts do have a meaning attached behind them. And these fonts usually mean like this provides a premium feel to the font. So serif fonts are used for that. Then the another mostly used font is monospaced fonts. Monospaced fonts are used in code editors or a terminal, something like that. So basically, the difference between monospaced font is, or what makes it monospaced fonts unique is they have exact same size. All the characters in a monospace fonts have the same size. So you just have basic description over here. Then we can move to font weight. Font weight is like the boldness of a font, thin, extra light, regular, yada yada. So basically, font weight comes in handy when you're trying to represent hierarchy in your design, which is a very key, which is very key. And basically, we should not overuse bold or italic font styles. That just makes your design look weird. I think it's okay to use it for displaying hierarchy, but overusing of a font weight, it just makes your design look weird. We'll be discussing that when we are designing our website for today. Then I just mentioned some theoretical parts here. Next, we can discuss typographical jargon. There's something called leading, tracking, and kerning. So let's start with leading. Leading is the line height. So if I go here and I type a few lines, let's just do with hello today. And if you notice, the space here, this is called your line height. And by default, it's set to auto in Figma. But if I try to increase that, see, so if I try to increase that, the line space increases. So this is handy when you're trying to achieve some unique effect in your design. The closer it is, the tougher it is to read. But if you're trying to create some unique effect look with your font, you can use this. So this is basically line height or leading. Next, we got tracking, which is letter spacing. Even this is similar to line height. It's just for adding a special effect. Personally, we use 120% for body text and 150% for heading text. Basically, if your font is a bit larger, it would be easier to read if you have a lot of space in between. So 150 for heading text, and 120, between 100 to 120 for body text. It just depends on your vision or your likings. Then let's move to tracking, which is letter spacing. So now if you notice, this is a default letter spacing provided by the Poppins font family. And if I try to decrease the letter spacing, it just shrinks down a bit. It looks compact, it looks cleaner, according to me. But on like a larger use case, it's tougher to read. If there's a lot of text and your letter spacing is very, yeah, and if your letter spacing is very small, very low, it's pretty hard to read. So the default values which we use for letter spacing, not default values, but the suggested values are from 0 to 3%. So this is 0, which is the default, and this is -1, which I personally use, and you could go up till -3, which up till -3, it's easier to read. These values, of course, do change, but I'm talking about Figma. We'll be discussing how these values convert to the development space while using Tailwind. We'll be using Tailwind to develop the websites we will be designing today. So we'll be converting these values to REM or M, which are like conversion ratios or conversion values. And we'll be discussing that tomorrow. So for now, 0 to -3 and upwards are good to go while you're designing with various types, various fonts. This is how Poppin looks with -3. Inter might look different for you. Inter looks like this with -3. Every font looks different and feels different. It just comes down to your preference and your branding, which font you like and which font you want to use for your branding. And these are a few resources and all the topics which I've been sharing with you guys have resources attached at the end of the page. And I'll be also sharing a single slide with all the resources combined after tomorrow's class. I just don't want you guys to go through the resources and just keep going through the resources. So if I open type scale, this is like very good resource if you want to compare how your font would look on a website. So, so this is like a dummy website these guys have created. If I zoom in, this is how your font would look, Inter would look with these settings on your website. The body size here is 16, right? So if I change that to 20, it has changed to 20. So this is like a really good tool if you are trying to test your website font sizes in real time. This is one of the resources. Then I have also shared a few websites where you can find some really cool fonts. FontShare is one of them. You will find really cool fonts here. Sorry, it has loaded. You will find some really cool fonts here. This is one of the resource, and Google Fonts is also a widely used resource for finding fonts, free fonts, and FontShare is one of them. FontJoy is like a really cool website. It helps you with creating font pairs. What is a font pair? You can use multiple fonts in your website, but personally, I would say just stick with two fonts. More than two, it looks just weird. It looks clumsy. It looks cheap. But if you're trying to achieve a unique effect, or if you know what you're doing with your fonts, then you can use multiple fonts. Who am I to say? So for now, let's stick with two. Two fonts are more than enough for creating your website. Uh, if you might ask, like, what is the need of using multiple fonts? The need of using multiple fonts could be again for achieving hierarchy. If you notice, this font is a bit bolder and it has higher weight in the design. There's a new term, weight. What does weight refer to in design? Weight means the amount of attention that particular part is attracting in the design. So if I hit on generate here, it works and it will generate a new pair of fonts for you. You can go through this website and you can create your unique pair of fonts and have fun with it. There's FontJoy, then we have Free Faces. I personally love the design of this website. You can find various types of font types, which we just discussed earlier: serif, slab, monospace, etc. This is like a really cool website. And we have Uncut Thought WTF. I found this one recently, and I don't know, I have no words for this. I just love this website. You find a lot of fonts, and the design is just so pretty. All these animations, and yeah, this looks good. Then, yeah, those are the resources for typography. Uh, I hope you guys understood that. Um, AK bro, can we have a poll if how that was getting for a response? Or do you want me to? Well, yeah, that's great. So good. I hope this class is going to be good then. I hope I'm teaching well. So at the end of the day, the typography in your design should be legible and readable. And we'll be discussing a bit more about how your design should be and how it should be user-centric. Every design you do should be user-centric, not attached to yourself. The design should not feel like, yeah, it's my design. I just want it to be this way. No, your design should be for your user. At the end of the day, you're not the one using your website. Your user is going to use your website. So let's think from a third person perspective. Your design should always be for the user, not for yourself. Well, of course, you can add your theme to it, but you should be thinking about the user. So there's that. That's all about typography. We'll be jumping into colors next. Now, colors is like a pretty cool topic. It's a very deep topic, and if you're using a wrong set of colors, your website is gonna feel like crap, look like crap. And I've seen a lot of websites like in the cohort. I mean, the design is fine, but people just use the colors wrong. That's simply it. Colors should be used uh, in like a very peculiar way. You should be very, sensitive about what color you're using in your design, because colors matter a lot in the design process. It adds mood to your design. It uh, you know, explains how attention is attracted to your website, and it just impacts the overall user experience. I just mentioned it here. So starting with color, we'll just start with the color theory. So what is color theory, you would say? Color theory is the study of colors where we learn about what certain color signifies. Every color has an emotion and a psychology attached with it. Let's say I have attached a picture here, which is like a branding picture. If you see red, it signifies ambition, confidence, boldness, and passionate, and being passionate. So that's what red signifies. Blue signifies it's like a more premium color. Blue feels a bit more premium. Green signifies growth, nature, something like that. And gray signifies balance, timelessness, practical, solid, yada yada. But yeah, I hope you get the point. Colors do matter a lot in your design. And let's talk a bit more about color values. We have color contrast, color saturation, color use, color lightness. There's a lot to talk about colors, but I don't think we need to go that depth into the colors topic, because if you have a good eye for color, I think that's more than enough. I've attached a video down here. It's from it's a really good watch. You could watch that video and you could get a lot of information about colors. So let's move forward with colors. Let's talk about contrast in colors. What's contrast, you might say? If you visit a website and whatever you're reading, everything has a contrast. So let's say you're having now in this screen, we have a black background on top of and on top we have white text. But what if the text was a bit darker? That would be really tough to read, and that would create a very bad user experience. That's bad. Uh, so there are some guidelines to maintain good contrast ratio. WCAG, this is like a community uh, guidelines for accessibility. So for normal text, you need to have 5 is to 1 is to 5, 4 is to 5, 4.5 is to 1 ratio. For a good contrast ratio, it's like a good contrast ratio. Then these are some values. So at the end of the day, you need to have a really good contrast ratio. I think I've mentioned a website where you can check the contrast for website colors. Sorry, I haven't mentioned that. I'll have to mention it later. There's a website where you can check contrast on your website colors. Then let's move to the 60-30-10 rule. This is like a very important rule, and this would save a lot of time for you guys as well. I've learned this recently, and this has been very helpful. So what's 60-30-10 rule? So 60%, you need to be the primary color, which is going to be either black or white. It's going to be the plain colors, solid colors. Then next is 30%, which is going to be your secondary color, which will have slight accent, which you're going to use a bit less compared to the 60% of the color, which is like the neutral color. This part, the neutral color, it's going to be everywhere on your website. We'll go that future. Okay. Then we have the last 10%, which is the main brand color. Brand color is like the accent and the branding color, which will be signifying the brand, signifying your brand. If we go to app.100xstuffs.com and I sign out. So here our brand color is blue. This is a website I designed. So if you notice, blue is used very sparingly, unless it's a CTA. What's a CTA? CTA means call to action. Unless it's a CTA and you want to drive your entire attention of your page to that particular part, you should use your branding color a bit sparingly. So this is how it looks in light mode, and this is how it looks on dark mode. I've tried my best to make this website accessible with proper contrast ratio and proper coloring. If you notice, I've used CTA colors very sparingly. The blue is used very less. and because it's a branding color, it's just 10% of the page. We don't have a secondary color here, but we have just used two colors. So all of the rules I'll be mentioning here, it's it's not mandatory to follow them, but it's like good thing to follow. Whatever the rules we are going to study, it's like good to have in your mind while designing your project to have the best outcome. It's not pretty mandatory to follow everything you watch in this video, but these are like a good thing to keep in your mind to have a solid design. And I have mentioned psychology behind every color. See, red signifies energy, passion, urgency, etc. Blue, trust, security, calm. That's how each color works. Now let's come to the problem with too many colors. I've seen a lot of guys using too many colors in their designs. What what happens is, if you're using too many colors, your attention is divided into each of those colors, and your all of your vision is gonna focus on various parts of the design. And if the design is made with multiple colors, your attention is split into multiple divisions, and you'll be focusing on each color sparingly, and it just has a bad user experience. And the user would not be able to focus on what you're trying to represent. Instead, he will be focusing on what color should I be looking at. That's how the thing works. Yeah, AK is doing having some fun in the chat. Then just make sure if you're trying to use too many colors, unless too many colors is part of your branding, then it's good to use too many colors. I don't mind using too many colors, but make sure it's not overwhelming for the user when he visits your website. Limit the colors to just two or three at max. Three is good. For fonts, two is good. Three is good for fonts, but just two is enough. One is even better for fonts. And for colors, three is more than enough. For according to me, but I could be wrong. It's design again. I just want to mention this, uh, and I hope guys keep that in your mind. Whenever you're designing something, just keep that in your mind that it's not necessary everyone will like your design. Design is subjective. It's similar to art, and not everyone will enjoy your painting. Some might, but some won't. And at the end of the day, as a UI designer, you need to make sure your design is enjoyed or liked by as many users as possible. Yeah, even I do, AK. Even I love my design, but the user should also like my design. That's what a designer should focus on at the end of the day. Now, these are some pretty good notes. I've handpicked these notes, and I've tried to uh curate. Of course, this is AI generated, but I've tried to make sure everything is handpicked and there's no nonsense in here. And this will be really helpful for you guys if you give this a read. And let's move to resources. A lot of you guys really love the resources. I have been having floods in my DMs asking for resources. Keshav bro, can I have some resources? I need some tools. Can you suggest me some resources, etc. So I have some resources for you. Let me introduce you to real-time colors. And this is also a website where you can test different color combinations. See, here we have primary, secondary accent colors. If I change a color, it will change on the screen. It's as simple as that. And it will also provide you contrast ratios. You can also check those out. This is like a completely built website with proper hierarchy and everything. This is like a real-time website. This is a really good resource if you're trying to test some color combinations. It also has a dark mode. Now, if you notice the color psychology, we have a test here. Yeah, we can check out color psychology. If you notice, I'm using the red color right now, and the website looks a bit bold, um, and it feels like fire, and it signifies boldness, something like that. But let me change that to a shade of blue. If I change that to a shade of blue, the website suddenly feels a bit calmer. I don't know if you could see this, but the website looks a lot calmer compared to red. And if I change that to green, this would start looking, I don't know, affirming. This looks something like a hug, a tight hug. This just looks comforting. So that's how different colors act on your website. This is like a really cool website if you want to try a few combinations out by yourself. You can go around, you can randomize colors. It also provides you some really good color combinations. Notice there. It's like it's also providing you different color combinations. I don't really use these websites, but these are like really good resources. And I love collecting stuff like this in a thought of maybe I might use those. But yeah, as a beginner, this is like a really cool website you could try out. Then we have uicolors.app. This is how should I say? If you have used Tailwind before, in Tailwind you will have a color palette. What's a color palette, you might say? Color palette is like a strip of colors which has different shades of a same color. So around 500 or 600, you have the actual color from which this color palette has been designed. So now you can see the locked one, it's 700. So based on this color, the entire palette is generated. So it's the same underneath, this will have the same hue and saturation of a color, but just if I copy this, you can have a better understanding on what I'm talking about. If I go to Figma and I create a frame here, this is a frame, and if I copy this, this is, by the way, this is a 700 color. So if you notice, this is the 700th part. And if I open the fill part, this is like this is where you play with your colors. So there are multiple types of values through which you can, represent a color. So mostly you use RGB or hex as a developer, but designers, we use HSL or HSB. What's HSL or HSB? HSL stands for hue, saturation, and lightness. HSB stands for hue, saturation, and brightness of the color. So I personally use HSL because I feel HSB is a bit confusing. So let's go with HSL. So if I change the lightness a bit, let me make that 50. Oops. Let me do that 50. And it should be aligning with some of these colors. Yeah, 50. So these two, the hue and saturation, those will be changing very manually, but the lightness will be changing as the scale goes up or down. So this is like a cool color palette scale if you're trying to design website using in your Tailwind. I'll be explaining that to you guys tomorrow in tomorrow's class. But yeah, this is also a good color generator for Tailwind. So, okay. Next, let's move to our next color website. So this is Human. This is also a really good color palette generator. Here also you can generate multiple color palettes for your website. This also has like a lot of stuff in it, changes everything. The colors change and all. You have multiple types in which you can generate your colors. You have gradients here, gradient, 2 color, 3 color, etc. So these are the resources for your colors. And the video, it's really good to watch. I would say everyone to watch it if you are trying to get good at your colors. So at the end of the slide, I would just like to say that use your colors sparingly. Just limit your colors and make sure you follow a hierarchy and have a good contrast ratio with your colors. I'll be sharing a website about the contrast ratio for colors. I don't remember the link right now. I'll add that to the docs later tonight. And yeah, just use your color sparingly. I think 2 colors are good. And of course, you will be getting the habit of understanding which color is good and which color feels good after a while, after having some experience with designing. So yeah, no chats. AK Bhai, can you do a poll again regarding doubts, or do we want to have a break? Damn, I guess I'm a good teacher then. Okay, that's great, guys. So, should we dive into UI UX then? Let's start with UI and UX. Introduction to UI UX. Let me close all of these. So, to put it simply, UI is everything you see on the web page, and UX is everything you feel on the web page. So, UI, it's like the button, the text, the forms and every image, etc. All of these come under UI, and UX is the experience you are having while you're going through a website. Let's say you're scrolling through a list of images, a list of text, or you're clicking on a button, or you're searching for something on your website, or you're trying to pinpoint certain specific thing on your website, or you're trying to do a payment. Everything, all of these things come under UX. And also there are a lot of UX laws we'll be learning today, and we'll be learning what are the good things, good practices in UI, how to create UIs. And by the end of today's class, we'll be designing a web page, a responsive web page, which will be user-centric based on how a user would have a best experience in that website. We'll be trying to involve most of the concepts we learned in today's class. And yeah, so let's start uh, with a slight introduction to UI UX. I think I have explained this right now. So this is like a really good section. Why does UI UX matter? So, like, if you're creating an app for selling it, you would only have good outcome or good sales if your product is really easy to use for the user. Not everyone knows how to use a complex website. Let's say your dad is using a website and he doesn't need those fancy animations. He just needs a simple UI, which would get him from point A to point B. Yeah, yes, sir. So we just need to go from point A to point B. There are a lot of ways you could do this. You could go from here to here. You could go from here to here. I would say this middle one, it's easier to do, and this is going to have the best user experience. I feel like you guys would agree with the same. A to B, if you want to go from point A to point B, it should be pretty simple. You just don't want to go around everywhere and then end up at the point B. That's just bad user experience. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to waste their time on your website. They just wants to get as much information as possible from your website within the first few seconds of landing on your website. So that's why landing page matters the most on your website. Let's say landing page or the hero section of your website, which will be designing, matters a lot. So the first impression, it's in around, as I mentioned, 50 milliseconds. The user will judge your website within the first 50 milliseconds. 50 is less, very less. Let's say first 10 seconds. Let's be um क्या बोलते हैं? Let's be good, and let's consider 30 seconds, or let's say 10 seconds. Even in 10 seconds, the user will judge your website pretty hard. If your website gives them a bad impression, they won't visit your website again. that's a potential loss for your company. That's a potential loss for your website. You just lost a customer. And the next time, whenever someone's, recommends your website or in your app, they will just simply say that that website is just looks bad. It has a bad experience. And there goes your marketing. That's a bad marketing. So we just don't want that to happen. And we just need to make sure your UI is pretty simple and pretty understandable to the end user. And then you will have, very good marketing. Um, Good UI UX, consistent design. These are just theoretical parts. But from this slide, I just want you guys to pick up that UI UX helps your app to grow as a business. You created an app. That's pretty good. So you coded the backend, you have a pretty cool AI app, but uh, if it has a bad user experience, no one's going to use it. There are a lot of examples where there's a bad user experience, but the product is good and the product might get rejected just because of the UI. We just don't want that to happen. We want our app to sell as much as possible. It will only sell if it has a good UI UX. People might say front end is easy, but it's easier compared to back end, but it helps you to sell your app. Your product is what you see. No one goes to the back end of your code and checks what's written in the back end and oh, this works like that. But no one does that, uh, especially a common user. Everyday user doesn't do that. He does not know how the backend works. He will do whatever he sees on the website. Should I use a general neutral term? Let's say they will use whatever they see on the website. So that's the job of a front-end developer or a designer to represent and display the information in a very understandable manner, which is very easier to understand even by a kid, even by 11-year-old. Even a 11-year-old should understand what's happening on your website. That's how simple your website should be. You can add, infinite amounts of animations, but just just make sure those animations are very minor and you just don't slap unnecessary animations. It might look cool, but at the end of the day, it might create a bad user experience for someone. I have noticed a lot of people use this orbiting animation. Even I've used that. Uh, a lot. I won't be hypocrite. I've used it here. Whatever I'm doing here, I've also designed this website. Not to plug, but yeah, this might have an adverse effect on someone with motion sickness. You should also keep that in check. I just created this animation to showcase my skills at animation, which got me into the position I am. If you're doing that, that's pretty fair. But if you're creating a production level software, which is gonna get some, very good numbers, you are gonna have to make sure it's accessible to everyone. This, whatever this animation is, I just made that using frame of motion. This is really good. This looks cool, but it should be accessible to everyone. I've noticed. I also designed these notes, and I think someone gave a review for this that the new UI looks it's not pretty accessible, so they wanted to switch to older UI, which is a bit bland, but it gets the job done. It's pretty accessible. It has proper color contrast. I agree that the problem with my UI is the background is very dark, which is not really good for the user because it's a reading platform. The color contrast here is bad. You should not have a very dark background for a reading website. It's good if you're trying to sell something and you want to, pitch black background. But if you're promoting your blog or a website which is going to have a lot of text on top of it and the user is supposed to read from that, you should not be using a darker background. But this looks cool. I think it looks really cool. But if you're spending a lot of time reading on this, I would say it's not good and it's not accessible. I wanted to change this, but I couldn't find time. I'll change that later. So there's that about UI UX. And let's jump to UI now. This is just introduction. This is a high level introduction part on UI UX, why you need to use UI UX, why UI UX matters, what's the difference between UI UX. UX is like UX without UI is like brain without a body, and UI without UX is like a human without its brain. If you read that, if you understand that, that's a very deep line. And I think as a designer, it's very important to understand this point, that UI and UX both go hand in hand, and UI UX goes hand in hand with front end development. Front end development goes hand in hand with back end development. Both make front full stack, and that leads to employment. You get jobs, you earn money at the end of the day. So everything is connected. Let's jump to UI now. This is interesting now. This is where it gets interesting, and we are right around the corner for designing a website. Hope you guys have ideas ready for the website we are going to design now. Just make sure you have some ideas ready, and it's going to be a fun session. I feel like we'll be walking through my process of how I design a website when I'm given a task to do a website, and how I usually do for my clients, and will go from scratch from like zero at like frame one. I'll be doing it with you guys. You guys can follow along and design with me. You can add your theme to it, and you guys could share that on Twitter and tag me, and I will review that. It would be great. So enough yapping, and we'll start with UI. So let's learn some core concepts in UI. And thanks for plugging my Twitter, AK. Let's start with UI topics now. Let's talk about hierarchy. What's hierarchy? Hierarchy, it's like arrangement of elements on your website. Uh, like you have a heading, you have body text, you got images, and even for images, there are images which hold higher importance, and the images which are pretty useless, which just lie there, but it's just for design sake. So hierarchy helps you when deciding which text is which part of your design matters the most, and which part of your design matters the least. So there's a good example about hierarchy here. So here you can notice we are using proper hierarchy here. This text, it just looks pretty bland, I would say. There's no hierarchy here. Not as big here. Here is even smaller. It's just design I got. So if you want to emphasize your text, you just make it bolder and make it larger. That's how hierarchy works. We have discussed this earlier, that we use font weight, font color, font size to have some hierarchy in your design. So that's how hierarchy works. Then there are types of hierarchies which we would have here. There's visual hierarchy and there's content hierarchy. So visual hierarchy, to put it simply, it helps in guiding you throughout your website. Then we have content hierarchy, which helps you understand which topic holds more weight, and helps you in organizing and the information you're trying to share with your website. That's where visual content hierarchy comes in. And visual hierarchy, it's pretty simple. Visual hierarchy helps you in displaying which part holds more weight in your website. So these are two types of hierarchies. Also, white space. This is like a really cool topic. I think I have a separate section for that. Oh, I don't. Yeah, I do have a white space. Yeah, we'll come to that. White space. Then these are a few topics. I hope you guys go through this notes. It's pretty good. I have been making this writing these notes for a while. It's pretty good to read. Then consistency. Oh, this is a very important topic. Though I have written a lot less about this, but I will let you talk about this a bit more. Community consistency. Keep your design consistent. Let's say you're using certain font in the first page of your website, and if you switch to a different font in your next page, it just feels like a different website. If you want to have a unified feeling for your website, like a solid branding to your website, your design needs to be consistent. The spacings, the font, the colors, the text, the images you're using, everything in your product should be consistent from the start to your end. Even the text in your footer should be of the same size throughout your page. Consistency matters a lot. Even the functional consistency. Functional consistency. What's functional consistency? Let's say you're clicking on a button and it opens a link in the next tab. And if you have another button which opens link in the same tab, it just creates a bad experience because the user would click on the other button thinking that, I'll just visualize that. Let's say you have a one button, you have two buttons over here, which look the same, but behind they have a different functionality behind them. All right. So this is button one. And this is button two. Both the buttons look exactly the same to your eye, but they have some functionality difference. One button opens in a new tab. Opens a link in a new tab, and the second button just opens the link in the same tab. Now, why is this wrong, you would ask? It just creates a bad user experience. The user which has just clicked on the first button and the link has opened in a new tab might think that the second button is also going to do the same, unless if the second button opens the link in the same tab and that function is yeah, if you're doing that wantedly, intentional, sorry, yeah, that's the word. If the functionality is intentional, then it's good. It's perfect. If whatever you're doing is intended, then it's good. But unless it's not, if it's not intended and you have done it unintentionally, that one button opens a new tab and the second button opens in the same tab, not what but same, in the same tab, that just creates a bad user experience, and there goes some negative review on your part. So make sure your design is pretty consistent all over, starting from the text, functionality, hierarchy, displaying, representing your information, everything, man. Just make sure your website or your web app is pretty consistent from start to bottom. It's easier for the user to navigate through your website if it's consistent. They'll get a feeling of familiarity that, you know, okay, this is how the website is going to be and this is how it's going to work throughout, and it would just work. That's the feeling the user might get if your website is consistent. Now, let's move to white space. White space is very key. It helps a lot in making your design look cleaner, breathable, and more functional. White space plays a very vital role in making your design look, very breathable, if that word makes sense to you guys. If I go here on projects100xtabs.com, you notice all this space. This is called the white space here. Though it's black, uh, it's still called as a white space, or you could say negative space. That's another word for it. Sorry for blinding you guys, but now it's white space, or you could call it as negative space as well. So this is the white space, and you might ask, why do you have so much space around the text? Isn't that wasting a lot of space? I mean, the purpose of the space is to waste some space so that this part of the page comes out, you know, gets more attention to it. If you notice that this section of the page is having some weight when there's a space around it. If you just imagine and remove this entire space, there would be no weight on this section of the page. It would just look pretty bland. I hope don't break the page UI. Screen size. Yeah, I don't want to break it. It will just, yeah. Because there's animation on top of it, it would just break the website. Of course, on local, but yeah. So the white space that helps in making your website look cleaner, breathable, and more premium, I would say. If you take a look at this example, Amazon though Amazon looks a bit old fashioned, but it has cracked the key at good UI and UX. You will just know whatever is happening on Amazon and it will just works. You can flow through the website pretty smoothly without any hassle, and you will just end up wherever you wanted to go. That's a good user experience. And if you have a solid user experience, UI doesn't matter that much. If you have a good user experience, of course, you need to have a good user interface. But if you have a good user experience, it's pretty good. If you visit Amazon right now and you just click on anything, they will have every single piece of information curated very perfectly as per user experience laws and everything, which we'll be learning in the next slide. But this screenshot, if you notice all these red bars, those are white spaces. As a practical user, there's no logic behind having so much space. You might think, bro, you can have a lot more information if you reduce that space. But if you think about it, if you remove that space, it would look a lot compact. It's my bad. I should have added some examples. Okay, I'll show that while designing the website. I'll showcase white space while doing that. So this is white space. It's also one of it's like a very important topic in UI UX. It's just very important. Please have white space in your designs. It looks pretty clean. It helps in your design. Even if you have, it helps a lot when you have less content to show on your website. So there's that. There's white space. It's like very important. White space is important. Consistency is also important. Then we have also continuity, which will be going next. Basically, white space helps with improved readability. It helps in getting focus of your user, attention of your user in specific part of the page. And next, we'll have visual hierarchy as well. As I've just, you know, showcased in this website, you have visual hierarchy. So if you have a lot of white space, this part is being highlighted the most. If you scroll down, all of these look the same. Right? So that's where white space comes in. Then let's move to continuity. Google's homepage, simple. Yeah, this is a good example. Google's homepage. If you go on Google, there's a lot of white space. This is like the official. If you just forget about search, this is like the Google's homepage. There's a lot of white space all around. But what does that signify? It signifies that Google wants you to focus on this part more than anything on the page. This is what they want you to focus on. And there are a lot of other things in the page, if you notice, but though they are arranged very sparingly, there's a lot of space in between each of the element, and they are located at the edges of the screen, because what Google wants you to focus on is the search engine or the search part of the page. That's where hierarchy comes in. This holds a lot more hierarchy compared to any other part of the page. This is like, you know, other sections of the page. These are like, the secondary things. These hold a very less weight in hierarchy. This is the primary focus on this page. So that's where white space comes in. White space or negative space, whatever you call it. Now, let's start with continuity. What's continuity? Continuity, it's like, uh, how could I explain that? Good. Mm, Let's say you're having a user flow. What's a user flow, you might ask? User flow is the path your user will have while navigating through your app. You just created let's say you created a YouTube clone. You wanted to search for you want to, let's go, if you mind, I'll create a user flow chart for you. So this is your user, and they want to go from point A to point B. Oh, we have